Welcome to the REPO4EU Podcast, Season 2. I'm your host, Alexandra Rodriguez, and for today's episode, we are welcoming Professor Harald Schmidt. Harald is a renowned physician, pharmacist, and scientific strategist, and is one of the leading voices in systems medicine and precision diagnostics. He's a professor emeritus at Maastricht University, where he acted as a chair of the pharmacology department and is the author of The End of Medicine as We Know It and Why Your Health Has a Future, where he proposes concrete steps to completely redesign our perception of diseases and how they are treated. Harald is also a known advocate for mechanism-based drug repurposing, a topic he has brought to the forefront of global discussions on medicine and pharmacology as the project coordinator for REPO4EU, the EU-funded initiative that aims to demonstrate Europe's role as the leader of repurposing efforts amongst the drug innovation arena. In this episode, Harald discusses the ambition behind REPO4EU to build a platform for the global drug repurposing community and how these efforts have the potential to change the future of medicine. I hope you enjoy the conversation. Hello, Harald. It is a real pleasure to open the second season of the REPO4EU podcast with you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks very much for inviting me. I'm very excited to join you.
It would be good to start with a short introduction to the mission behind REPO4EU to learn a bit more about what prompted the creation of this European funded initiative. How would you describe, in a nutshell, what REPO4EU is all about?
Technically, REPO4EU is the response to a call from the European Commission to foster drug repurposing. Drug repurposing is that you do not develop new drugs, but you use drugs that are already on the market and find for them a new use. This itself has been done since several decades now, but usually serendipitously. Our approach to this is that we want to make this whole process more precise. So the real innovation of REPO4EU is basically how we do it. We want to completely redefine what we currently actually call a disease.
Well, we're starting quite strong. Obviously, redefining how we call diseases sounds like a big task. Could you elaborate on that? Why is this necessary and what does it actually entail?
So most disease terms that we currently use, except for infectious diseases or some rare diseases where a single gene causes the disease, most other diseases are usually defined just by describing a symptom in an organ. Hypertension, asthma, psoriasis, inflammatory bowel syndrome. What they actually are, we describe symptom in an organ. The result of that is that most therapies are pretty imprecise. So not every patient taking a certain medication will have a positive patient-relevant outcome in the end. That also affects, of course, the success rate or failure rate of drug discovery in the moment. It's getting worse and worse. And we basically introduce predominantly genetically defined disease definitions, a bit like in rare diseases.
You mentioned in the beginning that drug repurposing is essentially avoiding the creation of new medicines by using the ones we already have. What are the benefits of a drug repurposing approach instead of traditional drug discovery or drug development?
There is so much potential in repurposing existing drugs, not only from the original target molecule that drug had in our body, but also to a different target module and then a new indication. So the uses seem pretty extensive, and the advantage is, of course, you know most of the side effects of this drug because it has been on the market, and you don't need a lengthy development, discovery process, preclinical study. This has all been done for the drug. So you could pretty quickly go to clinical validation and ideally proof of concept. So it's much faster, and because it needs less investments, it's cheaper. So it ticks a lot of boxes.
So, Harold, within the REPO4EU project specifically, we introduce you as a project coordinator. For people who are not very familiar with the world of EU-funded projects, can you explain what does this role mean and what do you actually get to do?
Basically, I'm responsible for this project, which is unusually large, 25 million euros. And we also have an unusual amount of participants in this project, I think 27 in the moment.
So it sounds like a big responsibility.
Yeah, but it also gives you the opportunity to bring the best people together in whole Europe, because we have currently in biomedicine what's called the Valley of Death. So we have a humongous amount of what's so-called basic research, but hardly any of this work leads to patient benefit. So there's a huge valley of death. I mean, we're supposed to do medical research, and medical means eventually there should be some outcomes for patients, a new diagnostic, a better understanding of a disease, a new therapy, but it's not happening. So I think most innovations never happen within a field. They usually happen between fields. So that's what we're experiencing. We have lots of different teams and specialities in our team. Everyone is needed, but no one can solve it on his or her own.
We should mention that one of the main goals of the REPO4EU project is to develop an online platform for the entire drug repurposing community. And this is actually the main theme of this second season. We want to know the why, the what, and the who behind this platform. So, Harold, in your case, we wanted to ask you specifically about the why. Why is this platform needed, and what is the philosophy behind this work?
Yeah, the why is basically that we think the stuff that we do is pretty innovative. It will be the future of medicine. I mean, that's a big word, but I'm pretty convinced it will be. The way we define diseases, the way we treat diseases, the way we prevent diseases. But it's in many aspects special knowledge. We do a couple of things differently than they are currently done, let's say, in biomedical research. And of course, one could wait until it diffuses slowly through the academic world, but it's of course much quicker and effective if we provide all the tools, guidelines, the standard operating procedures that you need in all these steps, from bioinformatics to preclinical, clinical research, and so on a platform where you can actually work and you are guided through this whole process.
And thinking in practical terms, what are some of the capabilities that you would highlight about the platform for someone wondering if this is something for them or something they could use potentially?
Let's begin with bioinformatics, which is one of our crown jewels, I would say. Usually you have to be a bioinformatician to work with bioinformatics. You have to be able to code, or you use software which is still very cumbersome to use. So one of the initial goals was we want to produce something the average biomedical scientist who does not code and does not want to use this highly specialized software, which are also a little bit of an overkill for what we are doing, but can still use our methods. So we have a very nice tool, Drugstone, that does exactly that job. There are training videos, there's an example, and we're actually starting now with students a global initiative on rare diseases. But then there are lots of other resources. We aim to work less and less with animal models, not because we are a priori against them, but we're skeptical about the translational relevance of many animal models, especially if we have genetically defined disease definitions and not symptom-based disease definitions. The preferred model is to use maybe cell models or even go as fast as possible into a clinical trial if the unmet medical need is high. and the drugs are pretty safe. But then where do you find those cell models? We want exclusively human cell models. And if you then go further, how do you design a clinical trial? We do precision medicine. So in our case, these are also very innovative trials. And for this, we have specialists. Then we have specialists to look at the patent landscape and advise. Even if someone would just look for, I have this idea, I'm looking for a clinical trial protocol, the question would pop up. Have you patented it? Do you want to check whether it's patentable? Just to remind them, so this is built in. And then the whole regulatory process is prepared. You can do what's called health technology assessment. You can calculate what may be the market value of that drug and so forth, if you want to talk to companies as a collaboration partner eventually. And for all of this, you don't have to leave the platform. It's an online workspace. It's not a pull-down menu where you can get a link to a software or something. Everything is integrated in this platform. So it basically guides you through that process, totally in line with data safety and so forth. I think there is nothing like that in the moment, but this way other scientists, wherever they are, even globally, can use it.
Considering all this work is for a European funded project, why is this global aspect important for the platform?
Getting global recognition and use is also necessary because you can't just validate or test a new therapy just in Europe. It should be treated or tested globally. That's why we choose this also from a programming point of view, pretty demanding platform. We have an excellent team from Ignosis in Romania who do these industry level platforms. So we are in good hands.
Harald, you said earlier in the beginning that this project brings together many partners from different countries all across Europe. And I was wondering if you could tell us, how does this collaboration enrich the work that makes the platform a reality? Could you share with us a few examples as to how this interdisciplinary collaboration comes to life in the REPO4EU project?
Yeah, basically no one in this project works in isolation. So you cannot just sit there and do your bioinformatics programming and then hand it over to the biomedical scientist here, enjoy. The process was highly iterative. So it was a dialogue. And then we had intense discussion. Do we need preclinical validation? Can we do it cell-based? Do there need to be animal experiments and so forth? What we do is actually ethics by design. Basically, the first step is there really an unmet patient need? What would the patient need? What would the patient think benefits him, or what would they expect or wish from a new therapy? Does our approach fulfill this, or does it have too many risks and so forth? So if we can't answer that question positively, it probably makes no sense to do a lot of other experiments, definitely not animal experiments, which also require ethics. That is actually a very early point. And then, of course, the patenting, freedom to operate, people who know how to do licenses, contracts, and so forth, to really decide, yep, there is a business case, can be patented, there is a patent strategy for it. So if it works, we can go ahead. It makes sense. It's not going to be after 2 or 3 years translationally a dead end. So these were, I think, some of the key examples, always keeping this ultimate goal in mind to develop something for patients, not just for journals.
We're now getting closer to a very exciting moment in the project where we're about to deliver this beta version of the platform after the summer of 2026. I was wondering, Harald, what do you expect to see from this improved version, let's say, And if you have to think a little bit further ahead, what do you hope this platform achieve? Like, what do you really want to see this platform delivering?
I would say two things are key. First of all, that the whole thing works, that we have developed something which is really able to deliver that with a couple of checks in between to deliver patient impact. And then, of course, that very rapidly, as many scientists, clinicians, companies use these tools, so that we scale up this process to innovate diagnosis, therapy, and ideally prevention as quick as possible. There's a lot discussion in the moment about pricey healthcare systems, and prevention also needs more precision. It would definitely be good if lifestyle recommendations could also be tailored a little bit to individual risk. And in many cases, that would suffice for a very healthy and long life. Probably only in 20 or 30 of the cases, we would need drugs when even the best lifestyle is not able to prevent the manifestation of a disease risk. So it's basically a continuum of what we're doing. The drug repurposing is one aspect, but you could also see that precision medicine, precision prevention are other aspects of this new approach to how we define a disease or a disease risk. But I would think this is probably the next step. So for now, for the platform, it would also be nice if we may have a lot of testers. This testing is very important, and we really invite everyone to register and test it and make recommendations, because we will refine it and optimize it also in the upcoming years. This project will eventually end in August 29, but that should not be the end of our mission. We want to move on in a European infrastructure or whatsoever. So please register as an alpha tester or in September as a beta tester, provide your suggestion, provide your feedback to make the platform even better.
So I think that's a great way to end our conversation today, on that reflection on what the platform will provide and what it will become, but also that call out for listeners to get involved and to provide their feedback as much as possible. So, Harald, just some final words to wrap up. Why would you invite people to visit the platform once it's ready to go? Who do you envision visiting, and who should definitely check it out?
Yeah, it's actually for a broad spectrum of stakeholders. Even bioinformaticians might want to learn more what's coming after their bioinformatics. Then the vast group of biomedical scientists, biotech companies, larger pharma companies, regulators, health technology assessors, everyone in that space, I think, could benefit from looking a little bit outside their silo. What's happening there? Why are they doing it this way? Even patient organizations are invited to, of course, we don't make specific recommendations for individual patients, but we invite, of course, patients organizations to engage with us.
Well, this is everything from me, Harald. It's been a pleasure hearing directly from you about the mission of the project and all the work that's been happening so far. So I'm sure our listeners and everyone following the project journey is looking forward to the latest updates. So all I have to say is thank you so much for joining us for the podcast.
Yeah, thank you, Alexander. Bye-bye.
For more information about REPO4EU and the mission behind the project, please visit REPO4EU and make sure to follow the project on all the social media. We're on X, LinkedIn, Blue Sky, and YouTube. If you simply type REPO4EU, you'll find us there. Until the next one.